Scoring in the NBA is out of control. It's been increasing for years, but this season it's really hit a different level. There are 21 teams in the league right now, as of this recording, that are averaging over 115 points per game. That is an absurd number. On a night-to-night basis, you can just tell teams are scoring a ton of points. And it's not just the good teams, it's the bad teams, it's every game. The other thing that's interesting is it's across the league. The lowest scoring points per game team in the league this season is unfortunately my own Brooklyn Nets. That points per game number would just barely put them in the bottom 10 of points per game last year. They'd be like 21st. I think they're averaging right around 109 points per game. That's the lowest scoring team in the entire league, and that's still a significant jump up even just from last season. So what's happening here? What's leading to this increase in scoring, and is this a problem for the league? Well, first and foremost, there's things that have been trending in an upward direction the last couple of years that just continue to go up. And then there's one gigantic factor that has led to such a huge increase in scoring. First, the trends the last couple of seasons. We know that for years, teams have increased their overall three-point volume. That's happened at the top of the league. It's happened at the bottom of the league. Teams that are already shooting the most threes in the league continue to shoot more. That's happened the last couple of years. And then even the teams that are really, really low in terms of overall three-point volume, that number is still going up as well. More threes is going to lead to more points. That has been a trend in the league over the last couple of years and does account for some of the increase in scoring output this season. The other thing that's been happening over the last couple of seasons and has continued this year is pace. Teams are playing faster, more possessions. That obviously is going to lead to an increase in scoring. And it's also been a pretty big talking point around the league right now because in some people's minds, it has led to a more difficult game to get guys to stay healthy in. There's been hamstring injuries, there's been calf injuries, and some of that has been equated to, in some people's minds, the overall pace of the game. How the game is played now is just so much more violent isn't the right term because it's not physically violent in terms of fouls at the rim, but on your knees and on your ankles and on your hamstrings, there's just a lot of change of direction, a lot of quick twitch movement, and over the course of the game, guys are just running more than they ever have in NBA games, and that's going to lead to more tired defenders and more possessions and more scoring. And related to that is a defensive trend that we are seeing this season coming off of primarily the success of the Indiana Pacers last year on their run to the finals, and that is teams are guarding more in the full court. And in theory, this is supposed to do two things. One, wear out the other team's lead ball handler. So if you're playing SGA in the finals and he's the one bringing the ball up the court all the time, you're going to guard him full court, you're going to get him tired, and then he's not going to have his legs in the fourth quarter. That's theory number one. Theory number two is it takes guys longer to get the ball across half court, which means they're starting their offense with 14, 15 seconds on the shot clock. Then they're going to get worse shots as a result. That's the defensive theory behind it. That's one of the reasons why the Pacers improved their defense so much towards the latter half of the year last year, as well as into the postseason. However, that can also lead to an even further increase in pace if you are able to blow by that guy in the backcourt, get to the rim, spray it out for open threes, and overall, it leads to what has been the primary driver of this huge increase in scoring this year. And that, unfortunately, is free throw attempts. On average, across the league this year, teams are averaging 3 more free throw attempts this year than they did last year. That's every single team in the league on average is shooting 3 more free throws this year than they did last year. And that is obviously going to lead to an unbelievable increase in scoring across the board. I think the full court guarding stuff is related to this because if you're able to blow by your defender, you're going to be able to get to the rim easier and quicker into the shot clock, and that's obviously going to result in more fouls as you're getting to the rim. Guys are playing at a faster pace, so there's more collisions, there's more screens where guys are getting run into, and then there's going to be a defensive foul. That stuff's happening, and also guys are fouling in the backcourt more now because they're going for the ball. They're guarding these guys full court. They're trying to, draw an offensive foul and falling over, and they're getting a blocking foul called on them. And then all of a sudden, you're 4 minutes into the quarter and the other team is in the bonus. And then every single foul that you commit, they're going to be shooting free throws. And so all of a sudden, you get to this scenario where guys are getting to the line more. They're playing at a faster pace. They're getting more three-point shots up. And all of a sudden, you're seeing this crazy, crazy increase in scoring volume. And with the officiating stuff, I think it's just harder than ever to guard these guys. Yes, there are guys that flop. Yes, there are guys that hunt fouls. However, they're just better at it than they ever have been. They're better at fooling the refs than they ever have been. And they're just harder to guard. They've got more moves. They're just more skilled. They can shoot from everywhere on the floor. There's more space. It is borderline impossible to guard legally now in the NBA, and rules changes over the years have continued to push us in that direction. And the question here now becomes, is this ultimately an issue? Is there too much offense in the NBA? Is it too easy for these guys to score? And is there potentially an officiating issue given that all of these guys are getting so many more free throw attempts? For me, the primary negative to all of this would be the games being longer. If we're having 3-hour NBA games for a in-person spectator experience or watching on TV, although that's probably better overall for ad rates for the league, it's not necessarily an improvement in the product. And if you're watching 40 minutes of free throws every time you turn on an NBA game, that definitely is a problem. And there are ways in which the league can prevent that. I think there definitely needs to be something put into place to deal with some of the flopping and the manipulating of the officials, because yes, it's the ref's job to make sure they're not calling the incorrect thing, but these guys are so good now at making what's not a foul look like a foul. I think that definitely needs to be looked at. And just in general, there are ways that the game gets officiated once we get to the postseason that makes the games much more watchable than they are in the regular season from an officiating perspective. And so I don't think necessarily the overall scoring number increase is a problem for the league specifically. I think it would be more accurate to say that the increase in foul attempts that has led to the increase in scoring is the primary issue here. And I'm not necessarily targeting individual players. I know that there's a lot of conversation around guys like SGA who get a lot of foul attempts. The best players in the league are going to get a lot of free throw attempts. Luka's averaging like 12 free throws a game because he's gigantic. He can back you down in the post, and he's really, really strong, and he's hard to guard. And yes, he flops. SGA flops. All the best players in the league, it's part of being a 30-point per game scorer in the league is you need to shoot between 9 and 12 free throws a game. That's just how it works. And the league has just continued to move more in this direction of having more space, having more shooters, and making it more and more difficult to send multiple guys at an individual player. They're passing better than they ever have, and it's just unbelievably difficult to deal with these guys. And I think where all this is truly heading is if this increase in scoring and fouls specifically, if it lasts the entire season, we're only about 20 games through the year right now, and if it continues to be a quote unquote issue in the postseason, because typically playoff basketball is more watchable because it's not officiated as strictly in terms of they just allow more contact. They just do. And it makes the game better from a competitive standpoint because it feels like we're not stopping every 30 seconds to have someone shoot free throws, and there's just a little bit more contact allowed, and good defense appears to be rewarded more because guys are going straight up. They're not reaching all these different things. However, if the increase in scoring and ultimately the increase in free throws start negatively impacting the postseason product, the way in some people's minds it has impacted the regular season product, that then becomes a pretty significant issue for the NBA itself. So that will be the thing that I continue to watch. Not only how this progresses throughout the year, but also what it looks like in the postseason. I'm curious what you guys think. Do you find yourself thinking, man, this is a lot of points scored when you're watching an NBA game? Do you find yourself thinking, man, this is a lot of free throws to watch? Or is it a positive for you? Is it like, okay, cool, I love more scoring. Scoring's always good. I kind of fall a little bit more in the, yes, scoring is good, but you can have too much of a good thing sometimes, kind of. It's a little bit like eating candy all day. It's like, yeah, it's really cool, but then also your stomach's going to hurt. Sometimes my stomach hurts at the end of watching some of these NBA games because I just feel like there's so many fouls called, and it feels like 2 out of every 3 times down the floor, teams are scoring, and defense, it doesn't feel optional. I think guys are trying. It's just so unbelievably difficult to stop these guys. So definitely a trend to keep an eye on the rest of the way in the NBA.